think I know what the other dudes are playing, but then when you get into a studio and you're kind of isolated and you hear everybody, you're like, okay, we might need to change this up so we're not just clashing with each other.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Willie Adler of Lamb of God. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Right back at you. Great to chat with you once again. We are on the eve, sort of the release of Omens, the brand new album, very highly anticipated in 2022. And yeah, man, you guys just do what you do. You go out there with the lunch pail, very workmanlike, and put out a new record basically every 2 years. I know it was really hard to put the last record out right at the pinnacle of all the craziness going on in the world in 2020, but you did it anyway, and came back to touring and came back to everything eventually. So props to you guys on the last one, and looking forward to
thank you.
So Omens is full of bangers. Really proud of you guys on this one. I did have a couple of questions. Obviously, this is the second record with Art, who, as you know, we're huge fans of, and as are you. He's been slaying it live, but what did he bring to the studio this time when you guys came in with your songs?
So, the first time, I think our biggest, thing with Art was we wanted Art, because, I know that Art was super nervous on the self-titled record. Not only was he had big shoes to fill, but we really wanted him not to necessarily emulate or replicate what he thinks would have been done. We wanted him to, we picked him for a reason. So we wanted him to really kind of showcase what he does. And I think that on this record, he really blossomed with that and was able to kind of overcome whatever apprehensions that he may have had on his first record with us in regards to that, and really was able to kind of let his own creativity flow, which is what we wanted. We were like, you're a smart drummer, you do drummer stuff, you have a lot of finessey, cool stuff that you do. So it's that's what we kind of wanted to explore with this record, and I think he really went all out, and I love what he's done with this record.
Right on. We are huge Art Cruz fans here at Ghost Cult, going all the way back to Winds of Plague, but of course saw him a bunch of times with our boys in Prong, and he has come to the table. He's one of the stars of Omens for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then I just wanted to ask kind of a general question. Now that we're quite a few years now into Randy kind of also singing, which he's really opened up on Omens, and he did on the last record as well. Do you approach anything differently now that that Randy has this in his toolbox to pull out, or you just still, here's the songs and do what you want with them, Randy?
Yeah, we've been doing this for so long, man, that it's when Randy first started busting that out, it was okay, cool. Randy's got a new character. We always kind of go through Randy's different characters and then what kind of suits, a song per se, but we don't necessarily, in the writing process, are sitting there being like, this would be perfect for Randy's sing-songy character. It's something that he just kind of busts out, and he usually has a really good grasp on when it's going to fit a song and add to it, and I think he's done that really well this time around. And I think the key to that particular quote-unquote character is to not overuse it or saturate a record with it. Really pull it out to kind of drive a point home and just kind of have it be a moment, if that makes sense, and not kind of be a driving force on either the song or the album.
Right on. Great answer. I clearly, Randy is always going to be a brutal vocalist. I think that's where he lives mostly, but yeah. I do love these vocals. He's really honed in and refined his vocal style, especially the clean stuff, but make no mistake, listeners, this record is brutal as ever, and nobody's going to be like, oh, they really changed. I don't think anybody has ever said that. Yeah.
No, I don't think that. I don't think, you're ever going to hear somebody say that about us. If you do, they're probably full of shit. I just can't imagine us doing much, that much of a departure outside of what we do.
Right. If anything, this record is, I dare not use the word throwback too heavily, but there's definitely moments on this record that totally reminded me of, As the Palaces Burn and Ashes of the Wake, which is coming up on a big anniversary next year. So I was like, man, this record is all grooves and and just crazy fast songs.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, man. that's really cool.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
No one's, this isn't going to be the disco Lamb of God record. There won't be one.
No, that is for sure.
For sure. So as I said before when we were offline, I thought it would be a cool idea to just run down the tracks and you can riff on anything you like, whatever comes to mind about the song, any of your contributions, or just general stuff about, each track if you like, and we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
We'll kick things off with the lead track, Nevermore, which also came with that amazing video.
Okay. So Nevermore, when we first started discussing writing another record, it's crazy, man, because that self-titled record, I'm still totally in love with that record and feel like we just put it out. Only because of all the bullshit that's happened over the past couple years, we put that record out in almost like a dead zone to where I was so excited about that record, and to me, that record is totally us, and I fucking love that record, and I'm still a little fucking bummed that we weren't able to properly support that record the way that we should have been able to. So when Mark and I started talking about, because we really didn't have anything but time, so we were both writing and stuff like that. So when the prospect of us going in and doing writing sessions for another record, I was like, oh my god, really? We're doing it, but it wasn't out of I wasn't saying that out of that I didn't have material or anything like that. Just being like, I really just want to push the fucking self-titled record. When we first started writing, I think that Nevermore was one of the first songs that Mark had sent me the demo of, and I remember hearing it and just being like, what? It sounded like crazy Meshuggah black metal in the demo, but it ended up when we went to work on it, throughout our writing sessions and pre-production, it really came together, and just that song it's a great intro track, and the whole stabby aspect of it, of the really kind of atonal guitar stabs is super cool, and that song is just really heavy. It's one of the heavier songs on the record to me.
Absolutely. The second track, which seems like, hey, you think that's heavy? Hold my beer, is Vanishing.
Yeah. So Vanishing, I'm super stoked on Vanishing because I think the only song on the album that lived as its demo, as I wrote it, it is, nothing was changed. I brought it in and it stayed exactly the same as it was from when I had the demo. So, I'm not sure that can be said about any other song that we have. That really stokes me out a bit. But yeah, Vanishing to me is super heavy, and I wrote that one early on, and that is definitely one of my favorite songs on the record. But it's definitely difficult to play, man. It's an exercise in guitar aerobics, that's for sure. But it's fucking cool, and it's a fucking heavy song.
That ending is insane. It's like planets slapping into each other. It's crazy heavy.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. And it's funny, man. All the guys were giving me shit. They're like, just when you think it's over, and fucking Willie comes in with this fucking other riff. I'm like, dude, it's fucking great. It's an outro riff. I got on this kick of writing outro riffs. I think I had a couple others in the demos, and dudes were like, dude, one's enough for a record. We're not going to do another one.
It's the Lord of the Rings ending. Here you go. I love it. I love it so much. To the Grave is the third track.
To the Grave. That was one of the demos that was definitely kind of got pushed around and pulled, but we definitely kept it real riffy and simple. Now, I'm trying to remember the recording process of that one, because there were a couple that were fucking pulling teeth, but I don't think that was one of them. I think To the Grave was pretty straightforward, and it's one of those ones that has really cool guitar tags in it. It's definitely a great song on the record. Definitely not one of my standout tracks in the way that Vanishing is, or Grayscale.
Ditch is the next one.
Ditch was another one that I think I brought in Vanishing, and Mark brought in Ditch as kind of like an answer to my Vanishing. We have this really healthy kind of competition thing going on, to where he'll be like, okay, you bringing this fucking hard-ass song for me to learn, and he's like, now check this out. And so Ditch is this super fast intro, and it's almost impossible to play, and there's tons of shit that's really difficult to play, but it just grooves, and that's what Ditch was to me. I think I had brought in Vanishing, and Mark was like, all right. He's like, check this out. Hold my beer, check this out. And he brought in Ditch.
Amazing. The title track is the fifth track on the record, Omens.
Omens. Omens, yeah. So Omens was one of those songs that kind of came out of a pre-production thing. There was no real demo for it, other than we were kind of going through what we had and what we needed. And Omens was one of those songs that we were like, we need something that just fucking bounces. That's just, that just bounces. And that was all written right in one of our little writing sessions, pre-production sessions. And it just kind of came together. And with Randy with the vocals, I think we had worked on the song during the day, and Randy would come in the evenings to work on vocals. And so when we all came back in the next day, Josh was like, yo, check it out. And fucking Randy killed it on this. And we were all pretty stoked. And pretty quickly, I think we knew that Omens was going to be kind of the title track of the record.
Killer. These things tend to reveal themselves, right? They're not hard to pick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially after, 27, 8 years as a band. Like, it kind of tells you.
That is very true, man.
Right on. Gomorrah is the next track.
So Gomorrah was also one that it was early on. That was one of in the first batches of demos. And Mark had Gomorrah. And I loved his fucking whole little guitar intro thing that he had. And see, we were doing these writing sessions in Virginia Beach. And I think that was like the first night we were there in this house doing this writing session. And Mark had this, that whole intro bit. And we kind of wanted to do another like subtle arts thing to it and just see what would happen with it. And Randy was there for, I think, this writing session. I think he came to both because we were at the beach and Randy loved surfing, so he showed up. But so it ended up being like we wanted to kind of feel it out in the same way that we did with Subtle Arts and make it have that kind of feel to it. And it really kind of came together within like a matter of hours, like the whole pattern underneath, and then Randy's kind of vocal cadence right at the top going into the verses. Yeah, that was an early one that we knew was going to be special too.
Killer. I'm going to feign a little ignorance on this next track. I'm not sure if it's Ill Designs or 3 Designs, and I apologize.
No, I think it is Ill Design.
Okay, sorry everybody.
No.
Sorry, Randy. Wherever you are.
You're fucking talking to the guy that isn't really fucking familiar with the real time.
Right on. That's got like a real Wrath vibe to it, right?
Yeah, fucking that song. So that was one of my demos, and it was the working title was Liar, and that song was just so heavy, like the build, and when Randy finally comes in and when it fucking kicks in on all that verse, I get goosebumps every time I fucking hear it. Like, it's just so fucking hard to me. Like, that song to me is very fucking, it's got, like you said, a Wrath vibe to it, a hardcore vibe to it. That song is just super hard. Like, I just want to play that song and just look out and just see fucking people going ape shit. Just that whole wind up at the top. That's everything to me. Like, when Randy fucking just puts it together and comes in, that shit is great. Yeah, no, I love that song. And that was one of the early demos as well. I think I had written that in the same batch as Vanishing, and I was real fucking stoked on both of those.
Absolutely. And then, as you alluded to, Grayscale is next.
Yeah. So Grayscale was my addition right at the 11th hour. And I wanted to write the fucking heaviest, most down-tuned fucking song. And it's funny because the working title of Grayscale was called Gorilla Dick, which to me, in my mind, was like the heaviest fucking, I was like, fucking Gorilla Dick, that's fucking heavy. Like, that's, what's heavier than that? Come to find out, a gorilla's dick is about the size of a thumb. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, Grayscale was my kind of last-minute addition to the album.
Right on. The 9th track is Denial Mechanism.
So that was the punk rock song. That was Mark's addition right at the 11th hour to kind of round out the record. And like we were just kind of touching on, we had all these kind of songs in the batch, and Josh was like, he was like, it'd be great if we had just a couple more, just to make sure that everything's cool, and, if we're not just kind of stuck holding our dicks, like, we need another song at the last minute. And, so Mark brought that one to the table, and I had brought Grayscale, and it was just the kind of 2 polar opposite songs, where even I think Denial Mechanism is in E, too. which is really cool considering that Grayscale is in B, that both those songs kind of came out of the same objective of kind of filling this void that was going on right at the last minute of making the record.
Killer. And then the final track is the very interesting September song.
September song is awesome, man. So September song was one of those songs that certainly changed from the demo. It always had kind of this cool kind of movement to it, but like the whole intro bit and all that it was kind of broken down from the main riff throughout the song, and it was one of those tunes that we really didn't know where we were going to go with it. Like all the way up until we were in the studio. Like we knew we kind of had a roadmap for it during pre-production, but we really didn't see it through until we were actually in the studio and when we could actually hear each other and when I could actually hear what everybody else was playing, or when we all could hear what we all were playing. Because I think while we were, during pre-production and playing our rehearsal spot, we kind of think, well, I think I know what the other dudes are playing, but then when you get into a studio and you're kind of isolated and you hear everybody, you're like, okay, we might need to change this up so we're not just clashing with each other. And that was one of those tunes. But yeah, September song is one of those special tunes that kind of rounds out the whole record, and in kind of in a very Lamb of God way, in the same way that like King Me lives in that same area. A couple other tunes we've done. But yeah, September song is a super special song, I think, to all of us in that regard, that it was one of those ones that we kind of all gelled on while we were in the studio.
Right on. I don't think it's a conscious thing with the band, but you guys do very good ending tracks historically.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not a conscious thing. It's not like we set out to create something that is like this epic kind of end type thing. These songs just kind of grow and become that way. Yeah, they certainly don't start out that way, that's for sure.
Killer, man. Thank you so much for that analysis. And
thank you. I'm sorry it was kind of bumpy, man.
No worries. Thanks to everybody for coming to our TED Talk. I'm going to give you back your day in a second. I just want to ask you one final question, which is, I am so stoked on this tour, and I'm sure you are too. Not just Kill Switch Engage, but I think this rad arrangement of opening bands across the country. So I just wanted to get your feelings on that for a second, and how you guys selected the bands to bring out, and the legs and everything, because I think it's really terrific.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking super stoked about it. And, I'm super stoked that Kill Switch is coming out. And beyond that, like Fitber and Autopsy, everybody else, it really is just kind of this throwback type tour to where we were, say, like the old Headbangers Ball tour that we did. I mean, this tour to me is almost full circle to where we kind of came from to where we are, and kind of how we want to be seen and where we want to be seen with whom. So it was certainly a conscious decision, everybody who's involved with the tour, to have this, I don't want to say nostalgic feel, but to have this kind of that moment that was when we were all kind of coming up in the scene, and that energy that was there at the time. It's kind of a recapturing of that to me.
Right on. Just throwing it out there. God forbid and Shadows Fall are both getting back together.
Dude, for real. We're all so bummed because I think we're playing the Blue Ridge Rock Fest like the day after God Forbid. And it's crazy. I mean, with the history we have with God Forbid, I mean, we used to play garages with them. Like, it's crazy. And yeah, if we can do something with God Forbid, I would absolutely fucking love to do that.
Fingers crossed for 23. That's my goal, man. Willie, man, thank you so much for hanging out with Ghost Cult. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, bro, and I really appreciate you. Be safe out there on the road and the tour coming up, and thank you so much for Omens. We really appreciate it.
T, thank you very much, man. I appreciate your time as well, brother, and we'll talk soon.